Hello, my name is Alex Perkins. I'm a student at Brigham Young University, Idaho. I'm in Health Science 391 with Sister Caitlin Maxfield, and I was a member of the group Guardians of Rexburg. We did a research report on distracted driving amongst BYU Idaho students, and this is my poster presentation of that report. As part of the report, we had to do some initial research on similar studies that have been conducted. And during that research, we learned a lot about the epidemic that is distracted driving. We learned that in 2016 alone, 3,450 lives were claimed by distracted driving. So I found that to be quite fascinating. These increased risk levels are equally as dangerous as the risk of someone who is driving above the legal limit of alcohol consumption. So that kind of really puts things in perspective of how dangerous distracted driving can be. And so once we learned that, we wanted to know how that would relate to the BYU Idaho student population. So as part of that, we wanted to determine if there was a statistical significance with age and distracted driving amongst BYU Idaho students. So as part of that, we sampled two age groups of students, age group of 18 to 23 and 24 and older. And we ran an analysis for that. We also wanted to understand if those that are reporting being distracted are participating in several forms of distracted driving in comparison to those who report not commonly being distracted. And for that one, we had two samples between not distracted and distracted. So how we went about doing this is we sent a Qualtrics survey via email to 300 BYU Idaho students. There was no differentiation between on-campus or online students. And so it was sent to a random population of 300 students. Of those 300 students that we sent the survey to, we received 47 responses. And of those responses, we differentiated, as I mentioned, between age. So of those responses, 23 of them were 18 to 23, and 24 of them are 18 to 23, and 23 of them were 24 years and older. And that infographic in the middle of the screen shows that the response rate between the ages. So part of that, so when we asked the question, some of the questions we asked were, do you participate in distracted driving? How often are you participating in distracted driving? What are the forms of distracted driving? Are you using hands-free devices in order to avoid distracted driving? To just really understand our population and our sample. And so we ran a two-sample t-test between the two age groups, 18 to 23 and 24 and older. And we had a very similar means come back. After giving the responses scores and tallying those scores, we found that the mean for 18 to 23-year-olds was 6.375, and for 24 and older was 6.957. And that infographic at the bottom of your screen is going to show you that rate, or that mean. So very, very similar, came back very close. And so the analysis that we ran, the statistical analysis came back that there is no statistical significance for age and amongst BYU Idaho students and just likelihood to participate in distracted driving. We found that to be very interesting, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Our second statistical analysis was a chi-squared analysis, and our sample was between not distracted and distracted. They were given a score based on their responses, whether or not what qualified as distracted or not distracted. And we really wanted to understand if those that are distracted are reporting using more ways of distraction than those who are not distracted. And we had the similar result that there was no statistical significance to those that are distracted using one or more means of distraction than those who are not distracted. So there wasn't any one thing that people reported being distracted of more than another. And so I found that to be very interesting as well, because from what we understood and the research we did, that phone use was by far the most significant way of distraction amongst drivers. So with our statistical analysis, some of the conclusions that we made, based on our research, we thought that this was very different from what we would have expected. So our null hypothesis said that the ages would be the same, and our alternative hypothesis would be that the group age, the sample aged 18 to 23 would be more likely to participate in distracted driving. But we found that to not be true, so we failed to reject the null hypothesis. Some of the reasons we think that this could have occurred, because it could be that our population of BYU Idaho students are more likely to abide by local and federal laws because of their beliefs or because their willingness to follow the law. It could be as well people were unwilling to give honest responses because they're either embarrassed or didn't want to share they're truly participating in distracted driving. And then also it could be attributed to our smaller sample responses. Of those 300, we only got 47 responses. And so if we had a bigger population or a bigger sample size, it could have changed our results just a little bit to be more in line with what other studies have shown. So we also, as I mentioned, we were unable to find any statistical significance to phone use or eating or other being more likely than one or the other amongst distracted and not distracted. And so this too was very interesting, as it was in contrast to most of the things that we had found. And so those were our results. That was our conclusions from our study. Oh, and maybe most importantly, is a big part of our study was a big part of our study had a problem, because when we sent to the IRB our questions and our analysis, we were unable to ask our respondents any direct questions related to texting and driving, because that's illegal in most states. So we weren't able to ask these students if they were breaking the law, which is fair. But we think that if we're able to have maybe a different population and more than just BYU Idaho students, we could have had a better understanding of texting being that potentially most common distraction. So that was our report. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing about all of yours. Thank you.